flashing bright like neon sunsets. Friends beside me even through the setbacks. Oh, crazy.
Titan Smash! Hello world. I'd like to start this out by letting you know that I don't typically do any type of build reviews or anything like that, mostly because I don't really consider myself any type of an expert on the matter. However, I've really enjoyed this Titan build with Consecration. So I figured I would come through and build a design of how I got here. There are a lot of videos out here about how to make this build. Not many of them explaining how to use the build as you move it forward, and not many explaining how they got there. Because a few of these items you do have, or perks, I guess you call it, you do have to build through the final shape missions. So starting out with, I'll show you the build that I'm currently running. So I run this with the Glacial Quake, mostly because I'm looking for massive AoE clear PvE type stuff. A lot of people will run this with the Blade Fury. They can get a lot more single target damage with that on their super. But I've found with the way I run this, I run the Glacial Quake because it gives me faster recharge for my Prismatic, and I end up swapping back and forth between the Prismatic and the Super, and I can almost just endlessly smash folks, which is just what I'm going for. Massive smash, massive explosion. I do run the thruster on this just to give a little bit of extra mobility, because when you're running this build, you are just right in the mix of everything. You're basically a frontline melee smash everything type of person. So I do that. You can run barricade. There's nothing wrong with that. You're up front, so I don't know that barricade would be as much of assistance. Same jump as everything else in the world, just the strafe lift. And one of the big kickers to this is using your melee attack as the Frenzied Blade. Now, this gives you 3 charges of melee, which basically gives you 3 consecration smashes, which we'll get into a bit later, and I'll actually show you how those function and how those work. Because there is some kickers and some changes to how you have to use your melee in order for that to function. So this guy, I also use the Shackle Grenade because, well, that just holds people up and makes it so you can smash them way easier. Also puts a basic small debuff on them so they die faster. So it works quite good. Big piece to this entire build is right here. Consecration ability. Now, in order to use Consecration, you do have to be in a slide. A lot of people don't actually explain how this functions, how this works. And at the end of the video here, I'll give an explanation of how I would practice this, because it does take a little bit of practice. You have to slide and then do your melee attack, but you have to kind of smash your melee button as you do it. So I'll put that together towards the end, and where I practiced to learn that. So hopefully that'll be helpful to somebody. I also use the knockout with this. It gives you some amplified items and then increases your melee range and damage. So I really like the increased range, because when I hit that smash, I wanted to cover as much of that room as possible. Alright, and for my fragments. Again, another controversial point of things. A lot of people use a lot of different things down here, but these are just the ones who work for me. Also to note, I'm not a Titan main, so this is probably not the greatest build, but it's what works for my gameplay. So starting off, I run the Facet of Purpose because I want to be amplified, restored, armored, all that type of items as much as possible, and this gains that from Gathering Orbs. Next, I run the Facet of Dawn, which gives you powered melee hits, make you radiant. And what are you doing this entire time? You are doing melee smashes. So we're just smashing and over, and also when you get the final blow, which happens a lot, it makes your allies radiant. So it helps your team considerably. Next up, I run the Facet of Protection because, again, you're one of them frontline type guys in here. And so it helps the incoming damage piece. And while you're Transcendent, which you actually end up being Transcendent quite often during this build process, it gives that increase effect. Also boosts the Strength, which is very helpful for this build. Facet of Balance. This guy is one that can be swapped out with a few different ones. I've periodically gone back and swapped it out with the Ruin because of the super effect and giving the extra ignition area of effect. But I keep coming back to this one because it just feels like it ends up doing more damage and it helps regain that melee energy faster. And you need as much melee ability options as possible. So I like to leave this one currently in my setup with Facet of Balance. And the last guy here, Facet of Blessing, just because you are that frontliner, really want as much health as possible. This guy gives you that health regen, gives you that health regen at the final blows, and just continues to boost you through the process and keep you alive while you're doing all these smashes. Right, and for your armor setup, I still have a fair bit of work to do on mine, but the goal that I'm going for on my armor setup is to have 10s in the resilience, the discipline, and the strength. Obviously, I've got two of those. Still need to gain some different armors to run it on the third. There's a bunch of different options you can run for your exotic item. A lot of people really like the synthesips. And the ideal build that a lot of people end up running is with the class item, you can get Spirit of Assassin and synthesips together. I haven't acquired that yet. So I've been playing with these two. I've been using the Severance one here, which makes more explosions, and we love explosions. Also gives me that extra grenade charge to give me that, well, we'll call it get out of jail free. Put the enemies up in a tangle, and away we go. I've also been experimenting with this guy, which gives me that Spirit of Assassin, which does make you invisible when you get final blows. Again, you're hitting final blows a lot, and one that gives lightning strikes when you do your melee damage. I have not seen as much damage out of the melee strikes or the lightning strikes as I would anticipate. So this one I still need more experimentation to do with. But these are just the two that I've acquired that seem to fit the build that I'm working with currently. Quick rundown on the mods as well. I won't go through the stats pieces because those will be different for everyone depending on the armor pieces you have and what you'll use. But as far as the standard mod pieces, I use hands-on, some form of siphon depending on the weapons you're using, and an ammo scout on the helmet. On the gauntlets, I'll use a heavy-handed, gives you the extra melee hits, some form of loader, depending on what type of weapons you're using again, and fastball just for the grenade aspect of things. On the chest piece, I use concussive dampener, which gives that extra AoE protection. When you're smashing, you'll periodically come across explodies, and that dampener will help you survive those explosions. And then sniper resistance as well, just because long range stuff will still hit you as well. And then some type of a reserve, depending on, again, what weapon type you're using. For the leg armor, doing an absolution, an orbs of restoration, and a recuperation, focusing heavily on that regen piece of things. And then for the mark or class item or whatever it may be for whatever version you're setting up, the powerful attraction, time dilation, and proximity ward. Time dilation assists with those extra buffs you get lasting longer because it may be different times between your smashes, and the powerful attraction helps gather those orbs that gives those regens. And weapons. Lots of different weapons you can run, lots of different builds, lots of different designs. Currently, in the time of recording this video, we're in a Strand and Solar Surge. Those change from time to time. So right now I'm running the Call with, I really like the hatchlings on there. I just like the extra AoE, go out, find things, seek them, kill them. and the Sunshot, because the explosive rounds on the Sunshot just seem to be doing an amazing job right now. Sunshot just seems to be popping off and causing so many more extra explosions. Again, lots of other choices you can use in here. I also have a void build where I end up running the graviton and some other items, but lots of different choices you can do. And currently, I'm not as happy with my machine gun that I have. I'd really like this to have incandescence on it, but I'm running the machine gun currently. I often run a grenade launcher as well, depending on where I am and what I'm doing. But like many others, I tend to kill myself a lot with a grenade launcher, so it's not as well. But either way, whatever you run down here, I highly recommend some form of an explosive round or incandescence or some type of item that causes more explosions. And for our artifact, again, lots of different choices here, lots of different items. Depending on what weapons you're using, you'll probably want to change up which boost you have on the weapon item. I tend to leave my sniper one on here, even though I'm not currently using a sniper, just because I do swap back and forth between different build or weapon sets with that. But one of the biggest kickers on this is to make sure that the solar fulmination is on, because this one is not just tied to your solar weapons. This causes the ignition damage on everything. Then it brings that radius damage up, and the way I enjoy running this build is more explosions. It just makes it more exciting for me, and I love that setup. Also running things that help recharge your melee and things that increase your melee damage. Everything like that is very helpful on this setup. But again, it all depends on what weapon set you're running and what items you're running. But do make sure that if you're running this consecration, you at the very minimum have that solar fulmination on. That will help those ignitions considerably. All right, and something to remember with this specific build, you do have to have completed the Final Shape campaign in order to actually have all of these abilities. And some of them you don't actually get completely from the Final Shape campaign. Some of them you're going to have to come into the Lost City here and actually complete a few extra tasks. All right, and when you spawn into the Pale Heart area here, if you head off to the right, you'll see a series of items. So you get your Queen's one, and the important ones up here are going to be for the home, part 1 and 2. The home ones will give you the missing prismatic supers and a few aspects. Specifically, if you tackle out the hollows part 1, which is on the other side here, apologies, that will give you the consecration. So super comes from your home mission. That will give you your glacial quake. And over here on the other side, your hollows part 1 will give you your consecration. All of these various missions will give you not all, but some of your missing aspects, fragments, and supers. Your Queen's ones will give you your prismatic grenades. The home missions will give you prismatic supers and aspects, and the hollows will give you other prismatic supers and aspects. So just some pieces to keep in mind as you're building this if you don't have the abilities you're looking for when you're putting the build together. All right, now the part that probably most people have been waiting for on this is, well, now that we have it all built out, how do we use it? How does this thing work? So what I do to practice, and what I did to practice, is I run down to Cosmodrome down here, and I will go into the Grasp mission here, or Glass Dungeon, dungeon that gets you the Galahorn. So I believe this one's available to everyone, whether you have an expansion or not. And this guy has a constant respawn of enemies, which makes it very easy to practice. So once I load in here, I'll show you how this setup works and why the slide is key to setting off the consecration, and how you can know. All right, so as I load in, before I even attack the enemies, if you look down in that lower left corner where the melee is, you'll see it's charging up. That'll eventually get up to 3 charges, and you'll be able to do your melee consecration smash 3 times. When you're sprinting, and you slide, notice how it changes orange? That orange is telling you that you can now do your Consecration Smash. Now the kicker with that Consecration Smash is if you just press it once, it doesn't actually smash. So I'll show you an example of what that does. So if you slide and just hit it once, it stops that attack. You didn't actually do the attack. You have to hit it at least twice. Me personally, I smash it over and over and over just to make sure that that Consecration Smash goes off. Because as you can see there, I didn't hit it that time and it discharged my melee. So I didn't do any attack. I didn't do anything. It held up and it lost me that melee attack. So we'll come up here. Let's kill this witch off and the sniper off. That way we can make things a little easier for us. Now, when we come around the corner here, that little cave right there is where they'll just constantly spawn out of. These enemies will just do a constant spawn from there. As you pick up these guys, see how they're spawning in there? And then you can come up, get your smash off. Boom. You practice that entire smash. It also recharged me. Over and over. Because I'm getting so many kills and that melee help is going... Oops, missed it that time, obviously. But, so it takes some practice to run through there. This is one area that I use to practice that smash. So again, one more time on that smash setup, make sure that when you slide, that thing goes in, and you hit this as a double. You gotta hit it at least twice, or the smash will not work. So remember to hit that melee multiple times as you're doing that slide. Also, if you don't do the slide, you will still do a melee attack and a powered melee attack. What it will be a strand swipe, I guess you'll call it. In these charges. So you'll come up, and if you miss it, you'll do that. Which sometimes isn't that bad, because you get a strand ball, and you can throw that ball out. So just some things to take note of as you practice. Thanks everybody for watching. I do hope this helps someone in their journey. I know that when I was looking through this, it didn't have everything I needed in all the videos I looked through. I doubt I covered everything I needed in this one. And again, I'm not an expert in Titan. So this is the build that's worked for me, and hopefully it will work for somebody else as they move forward in their journey. So thanks for watching. We'll catch everybody on the next one.